Got it. Oops. Did I just turn it off? I did. I hit the button. Okay, it's good. Can you hear me? All right. Good morning, everyone. All right. So we had some fun last night with the server and found a few things that had to be tweaked. So one of the things was it is launching multiple copies when you reconnect, and we'll get that fixed. I didn't want to mess with that, or we may not be running this morning. And so I set the server to where if it disconnects, if you'll wait 2 minutes, it'll reset everything. It'll reset your session, and when you reconnect, we won't have that problem. Okay. So, and then when I get back, I'll correct it so that you don't have to worry about all that. You shouldn't have any concerns. You just connect and use the system, right? And we'll get that resolved. So I had asked you if you had any questions, write them down. Does anybody have any questions? Or even with the fun we had yesterday, we did good? Yes, good morning. Right. So currently you have a button to add it, but it's a setting in AVP for us to turn that on or off at which security level. And so I think we're going to meet this afternoon after this is over, unfortunately, and determine all of that, and then put together a good email to explain it to you. Basically, to the right of the entity, whatever the entity is. So we have vendors, we have referral sites, we have partners, and so forth. If there's a button with the table button, then you can add. If you don't see the button, then it was determined that you'll need to get somebody to add it. So can we put together like a Word document explaining how to do that? I can put it together once we talk.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that we've done in the past is had some limitations on adding agricultural employers.
Okay. RA. Okay. Okay. So one thing is when you're putting in the work history, it just has an employer name. It doesn't have a list behind it. And it's been requested that we turn that into a list. And so so that will be changing. And so that was requested from another agency a little while back. We've been working so hard to make sure that WIOA is, the back office reporting and everything works. That we have this list that continues to grow. But now we have that all functioning, and as far as we know, in DOL hasn't changed it yet. So right now they're real busy with the new additions to the Pearl. So it's given us a little time to catch up. So sometime in the next couple of months, that'll happen. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about this morning was the update process. Okay, so we normally do an update on the weekends. Unless there's something that is just keeping you from working, we'll update that night. Otherwise, we have to get everybody to log out to do a patch immediately. we shouldn't run into that. The system is way past that. And so, if a field disappears, how do we make sure that you're notified of the changes? And so what we normally do is we put together a Word document and we email it out. And so if you see something that's changed, then your supervisors or at least the regional director should have that email. You can say, hey, if it's not getting to you at the WDS level, then you need that information, right? And so if you go to our help desk, we just started with the help desk uh, in July of 2016. And so it's support.fostechsolutions.com, if I can type. And we're growing it out. So we have webinars every couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, and those we put underneath the under the presentations here. All right, and so we'll add another section for versions and what's in that version. So at any time you can go and see what version you're in under the about, and there'll be a version number there. And so so the last 2 digits are the ones that incremental updates. That'll increment with every update, every patch, okay? And so we'll put the name where it shows presentation there will have a version number and a date that it was released in another section here. And then you can click on that and see the document of what was changed. All right, and so all right, and so did you have something? Did that answer your question? Okay. Okay. Was there somebody else? Okay. So even through the fun we had yesterday, we're good so far? Okay. Um, so one of the things, I'm going to look at my client. Let me get back to where we were. That's not the right one. So I guess first I should ask, is everyone able to connect? I'm almost afraid to ask, but okay, we're good then. Okay, so my work last night worked. It's okay for now. I'm gonna knock on wood and all that. So I went through the job placement yesterday, and so we have a client that we trained, did a couple revisions on an employment plan. We did, kind of going backwards. First we enrolled them, then we did the initial assessment, the objective assessment, an employment plan, um, a classroom training, which we call occupational skills training. All right, and so they're just synonyms. Right? And so um, beyond that, then we did a job referral when the training was over, and a job placement. Okay, so now they've started work, and so on the main list, it's going to show me how many days until exit, and because I enrolled a client yesterday rather than a year ago, then it's showing its way out in the future. So we'll just have to act like it says exit due. Okay. So once that that time elapses and the 90 days are over, then it's going to say exit due, and on my exit screen is where we keep the data last service. And so it's constantly updating that data last service. If it's incorrect, then, and you're not able to see why, to call support. We'll look through it and see. And if you have a date that you think should be the exit date and AVP says that it's a different date, something's not entered correctly. And we'll help you with that. And after you do it a few times, it won't be a problem. Okay? And so that's a way of us making sure that everything's correct, because we want to report as accurate as possible. So my 90 days are over and it's time to exit the client. I can do it from the to-do tab, but I'm not going to get a to-do because it's 213 days, I think it said before. Um, all I do is click print exit screen, and it's going to go through and start validating the whole case file up to this point. Right? It's going to go through and make sure that all the services are locked, except for case notes. Okay, and so um, first it tells me all employment training goals must have an actual end date. So if I scroll down a little bit, there's another list. The first list is, I'll repeat, the first list is any service that has a begin and end date. So the first list, you'll go to each one and hit the close, what we call the closed service dialog, that will modify itself according to that service's settings and ask you the pertinent questions. And so each one of those, it already passed that check. So each one of those must have an actual end date and actual hours if it pertains to actual hours. Just for reference, it tells you up here, what the training was and so forth. So for that employment training goals, if I have 5 revisions of the IEP, every goal will be here. And so you need to mark the revision 1 goal as dropped if that's the case. And so you just go to each goal and select the only button there is edit. And so it'll come up with the date of what the estimated date was. But if they drop the goal after a week, then you'll need to change that date to the date that it was dropped. And you just select that it's either dropped or reached. Okay? In this case, I'm going to say they reached the goal, and I'm done with my list, okay? Because I only have one training goal. Okay? But if you have multiples, you just have to do the same thing to each one. And it's a good practice when you do a new revision of the IEP to go drop the goals they had before. You just go to the exit screen at any time and mark those as dropped. Okay. Did you have a question? Is your system doing the same as yesterday? Terrific. Okay. So you select the item in the list, and then click let me see your screen a little bit. Click that button to the left, and what does it tell me? Okay. So I'm going to demonstrate this one. So this happens a little bit, and it's because I'll go up and clear my goal to show what's going on. And a lot of you may be having this. So let me set it so that I can reproduce the message. So if the session is incomplete, then on the exit screen, if there are there may be 5 sessions or something, right? And so if I go here, it's going to give me the message that all sessions must be marked complete. You have to go back to the training worksheet and complete each session, complete or dropped out. Yes. Now, let me look at the server real quick. So if you'll wait 2 minutes and then try to reconnect. So I'm going to make sure the server's not having an issue. At least I'm ready. We have plenty of RAM. And everything looks good. Boy. Okay, so if you'll wait 2 minutes and reconnect, that should go away. If it still doesn't, please let me know, and worst case, I have to reboot it. But it has plenty of resources, yes. You're having the same thing. Yeah, so yours is, oh, so you have another user that's got the same user account. It's not that. It's that somebody else is logging in with the same username onto the server. So that is, what's it say there, 14? So, and did James do this, or did I do it yesterday? Okay, so we need to, somebody else is using your user account. Let me look real quick. Multitasking. let's use, so Maryland is there. All right. The resources are all very good. Okay, so we're going to use Stephanie's user this morning, just because I know she's not going to be using it. And then we're going to have to figure out who's using your account, which I can do that.
And then moving forward,
Well,
my administrator will give me my own username and that kind of thing.
well, this is your account. It's just that some reason, when I was in the other two regions, I didn't have the list. And so I set some people up but I didn't use 14. I started at 100 and went backwards. And so, but we can look through the logs and see exactly who it is. Um,
So I'm right with you. I'm just at 10 sugars and 5 creams.
Oh, you're worse than me. I'm the worst person when I go up there. I'm like, and some vanilla.
Right.
all right, let's see if this works better for you. Okay, make sure it logs in. Oops, let me. I haven't had one with the buttons at the top, so I'm getting not used. Well, here we go. FTS 13 user. Oh, it didn't save it. Okay.
Yeah.
You said aphrodisiac? Aphrodisiac?
I found this new can. I forgot what it's called, honestly. I just know what it looks like. I'm like, you can find it, and it's not. It's low calorie.
I'm going to go ahead and save that for today. When we get done today,
Yeah, it's
remind me
just
to
a can that I've been
clear it
buying. It's a good
because
one.
this is Stephanie's uh, account. I just know she's not probably using it. If she is, if it gives you the same problem, then we'll have to pick a different
Pick
one.
something else.
All right.
No worries.
All right. All right. So back to where I am. Yes. Okay. Let me look at your machine. Yeah. Let me look and see what it's doing. That's really strange. Y'all are soulmates of some sort. All right, here's the problem: is you're not connected to the. You've got to put in a network, the coupon code, to connect to the internet. So just connecting to the Wi-Fi in a hotel or whatever just connects you to their router, and then that's called a proxy server. So if you'll open your browser, oh, I'm glad that was not full. If you'll open your browser, it will bring you to this screen. And um, do you do we have the coupon code? I think it started with an R. Yep. W. Okay. But yours is connected? The coupon or promotion? Okay, I got something wrong. RDUA? Or H? X? That's what I have in there. Okay, what are you? It may be which one you're connected to. You need to connect to the H honors. Yeah, you're connected to the AT&T one. So let me change that, and then this should work now. Here we go. Coupon code, connect, and then again RDUA WHX. Okay. Why is it giving us true? This will work. It's just that let me reset the browser. Close the browser. Oh, okay. I'm going to close the help desk browser too. Let's try it one more time. So when you, come on. Giving me fun this morning. Yeah. Okay. Is this yours? Okay, let's go ahead and connect to that and see.
Verizon 788.
Okay, I just connected to that. Make sure it's the right one. Oh, it's not showing. It didn't connect. Okay. Verizon SM 7887?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, it says we're connected, secured. Okay, we'll go to browse, Yahoo. Oops, I got it spelled wrong. Okay, now you're on the internet. And so now, securing remote session, configuring, securing, you're good. Okay, you're welcome. Now, what have you got going? All right, I'm not going to be able to walk by tomorrow. Okay, it was giving her the same error. For some reason, the coupon code wasn't taking it. So I don't know. Let me go get my piece of paper. Oh, we have a new code.
Is it the same?
It's different. That would do it. We're going to get through today. Okay, you can keep that. If I need it, I'll come back and locate it. All right. So let me try to get back where I was. All right. So to get back where I was, if you go to the exit and you go to close a training worksheet that has sessions on it, then it's going to tell you need to go mark all the sessions. I think we'll change the message a little bit because it needs to be more explanatory. So to do that, you go to the service worksheet itself, and you would go to the session. And so you'll actually get it to do when it expires, and you open the session, and if they completed it or dropped out, and then these two fields will appear at the bottom. The actual end date will be set to the end date of the training, and you can modify it to what it should be. And the actual hours will default to the training's max hours, and you can change it accordingly. So if they went to 2 hours of class and dropped out, you'd put the date they dropped out and 2 hours. Okay? And then once that session is marked, it will lock for you when you print. I'm actually going to unlock one for demonstration purposes. So as you can see that an admin or supervisor, enhanced supervisor, which is your regional supervisors, then they can unlock that worksheet. All right? And so if I go back to the exit, I'm going to start again. It's going to tell me that all services must be complete or dropped out, which is the service list. I go in and complete that training again. I cleared it so that I could demonstrate. Okay. Complete. Everything is correct. Okay. And I mark it. And I'm just going to step through and let it tell us each one. Accountability exit status is here at the top. So it's once it passes those checks, which it's going to check that the receipts are entered. I think I'm going to run into that in a minute. Okay. It's going to check that the services are all locked, because that's when we validate that the data has been put in. You know, we can validate that it's all entered. We cannot validate that it's put in correctly, but that's why the checks and balances are in place. And so we do as much as we can to make sure it's complete. The accountability exit status, I'm having fun with my mouse here. So this was put in, according to Andrew, for other DOL programs. And so apparently there are some programs, I'm not very familiar with them, but they have to recertify their clients every program year. And this is if they recertify and found out they had an invalid Social Security number or something, that's where this would be used. But they're requiring NFJP to answer the question. We could default it if you prefer. neither condition applies is what Andrew said it would be for NFJP. School status at exit. All right. So just let it know where they're at the exit time. Yes. You have the same error? Okay, so I think this one is so let's make sure you do have internet, right? Um, no, there it is. We need to put the coupon code in. Y'all have that coupon code? I think it's either different than yesterday or something. It was on my laptop. I think it's the same one. You have the same. I'll get it. We'll get everybody on the web here. I'd rather it be their issue than my server. I'm happy to fix this one. It's not my server. Not like the fun of yesterday. I spent the night making sure that we weren't going to repeat that. Okay, so it should bring you up to their little screen, and it did not. So if you open your browser, does it bring you to the page asking you for a coupon code or something? No, you're on. Okay. You're okay. All right. Yeah, this one you're on H honors. Did you put in the coupon code? Did you put in a coupon code this morning?
No, not this morning.
Okay. Let me see if I can get you to the screen. That's what it is.
Connected with
Yeah, it's strange. I think it just changed right in the middle. It was working earlier.
Yeah, it was.
And so they may have rebooted their router with new coupon codes. So they do that before checkout time every day, and that's why. So at least I assume they do. I don't do their systems. I think that's what it is. But, it's hard to say. But usually once you get connected, if you leave the browser running, then you shouldn't have the problem. There we are. I have a coupon code. Next. Okay, here it is. If you'll put that in, you should get onto the web, and then you should be able to launch. Is anybody else having an issue getting on to the web? No? What did you break?
I can't, when I choose, it's not changing for me.
It's
None of the,
probably logged. Where are you? No, it's not logged. Let me see what's going on. So I had a problem with the mouse a moment ago. So where are we at? Oh, the field office. No, we don't want to change that. Let's go to... Let me see what's going on. Why is it doing that? Can we change anything? That won't allow you to change it. So let's try here. It's acting strange. Yeah, that's what I thought. You've got an issue here. We can close that. That's not going to make a difference. So it won't go to any other tabs, and so it's definitely not functioning. So I don't know what's going on. So if you'll wait 2 minutes to rerun it, let me know if you're still having issues. I apologize for all this fun we're all having. What's up? It won't bring up the coupon code. It's the same issue. Mouse? You have a separate mouse? Okay. Where is it? Okay. Whoops. Okay.
Well, you can because it's online. They have it on YouTube. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, when you go, well, it used to be on the YouTube when you go there, you know.
This Windows version is acting strange.
When it was showing the obviously change,
It's not going to the login screen.
one of the girls that used to work in my office, her grandparents used to come. And the girl
Here
from
we
the
go.
house
Well,
used to manage
nope. The browser's not going to Hampton's site. It's not going to the login screen. Let's try we can't even do that. So this is Windows. It's supposed to automatically take you to that screen. You don't have, do you have it open? That in the browser? I just needed the address, yeah. So it says Hampton Inn. Let me try it, see if I can get it to jump over there. Nope, no, it says not secure, that's why. Hmm. Here we are.
was it Mace? Is it near Macy's? No.
We're still getting it?
But
So if it booted, you wait 2 minutes and reconnect.
that was a working now.
I have a fun internet here.
Somebody had over
I don't even see it.
25%.
So
They had permanent markdown plus half price. Yeah.
why is it not taking me to the login screen? You're gonna need a hotspot or something. Let me try Internet Explorer and see if it'll work.
They sure did for Oliver.
This one I don't know the website. So if we can go back, then I can type it in. So where we logged in, the first screen. There it is. So it says, oh boy.
They haven't checked
Yeah,
now.
try to reboot it and see if it'll take you there. Let me see here.
They haven't checked now. They can use their new number, last name to come on the computer.
All right.
It's good.
Can you reboot it and see if it'll?
You can sign in using their new number.
Can you reboot it and see if it'll? So when you connect to the internet, it's supposed to open that browser up to that page, and you can, if you want to type that in, I can't even read it. Then if you type it in just like it says, it should work. But all right, yes.
I don't know if this is the moment, but at the
Is this
exit,
mine?
I'm going to see.
Where's mine? Okay, I thought I left mine here. Go ahead.
A school status at exit.
Right.
You have either in school or out of school, but in out of school, they don't have nothing stated as a post-secondary graduate. If we pay for 2-year associate degree, we should be able to track that information at the exit. Right now, we only have not attending a school, drop out, not attending a high school graduated, or
Okay.
equivalency. But we don't
Those
have
those
nothing.
settings are right out of DOL's code. So those are the only codes they allow for that actual status field. So the Pearl asks a question. It asks that question: school status at exit, and that's what that's wanting to know. Okay. So 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 we want to repeat the question so we can all discuss it, okay? So, because I need to understand exactly what you're doing, okay? So for youth, is this who you're pertaining to? Is it youth participants that this question? Okay, so I think it's two separate things, okay? So first is DOL in the WIP, or the Pearl, it's got one element that asks that question, and those are the only available options. One of those options has to be reported to DOL. Right? Now, I want to make sure I'm following your question. So, if someone's placed, say, in post-secondary school, and you're paying for it, you wouldn't exit them yet, right? So, when they finish the school is when you would exit and set that field, right? So, if you put in your classroom training worksheet, okay, now we do really need to delve into this. So, the classroom training, the occupational skills training worksheet is designed to let you put in the whole 4-year program, if that's the case. But that doesn't work with accounting and so forth. So normally you do one semester or maybe 1 year, and then you close out that training and you do another training and so forth. All right. Now, this comes back to accounting, I think. So so let's use a 2-year associate's program, for example, okay? So if you're putting someone into a 2-year associate's program, the AVP is designed to allow you to put them in for the whole 2 years, and at the top of the worksheet for the occupational skills training, then you could put the estimated time they're going to graduate, okay? And that's going to change that date of exit out 90 days past that date, okay, the estimated date of exit. Now, you have to work that out with accounting and your policies of what happens with trainings that go over the end of a program year and so forth. Right? So when we were talking in Michigan, it sounded like they would do an occupational skills training for every semester. Right? You do the same? Okay, so you would just put them all in, okay? And then it'll work great that way because we capture the measurable skills gain when the training worksheet ends. And so you would go to the exit when they end so when that training itself ends, or on the to-do, you go in and you close the service with that closed service dialog. Let me go back to it. So the to-do that says that your training end date has been reached, well, when you right-click on it and say open item, it'll pull this screen up. And so you then would track their report card if that's what you're tracking that type of training with, which is what's pretty normal. And so I think, but this field you're talking about here, the exit, school status at exit. So this is a Pearl element. So it's not one that we can just add things to because these are the only 6 options they give us. And your was it training related is a multiple question. So there's 3 sets of elements for the first 3 trainings that they're in. And each one has the option for was it training related. Right. Right. And so but it will ask and so I think we asked on the job placement, was the job training related? Okay, not the actual school, because the school is training related. That's the training they're in. So when you on your job placement and every follow-up, but actually every place they go to work. So if they're working multiple jobs, when we get into the follow-up, I'll show you where we set that. And so So if they're working multiple jobs and one of them was training related, we're going to set the Pearl field to yes, it's training related, right? And so I'm trying to explain it. So there are certain fields that are right out of the Pearl, and they say, here's the 6 options you have to choose from. And we have to pick one of those 6. And so now with that, maybe we rethink where we're asking the question, right? So I did, in 3 weeks' time, I took a whole lot of Pearl fields and tried to find the right place in the workflow. And so far it's been okay with all our clients, but if we think about that it needs to be in a different spot, then that would be a great topic for one of our webinars to really discuss that and delve into that exact topic. And so, but if you go to a job placement, because the Pearl ask was the job placement training related, right? And so, it does ask that one for every participant. So if you go to scroll down on the job placement, then it shows here, employment was training related, okay? And so that's the was it training related question as far as I know. Does that make sense? Did I understand your question correctly? Okay, sorry, it took me a couple tries. So, yes, of course. Yes. Correct. And so what we'll talk about it again. So we're going to change that because once I got your classroom training printout, I saw that there's a weekly maximum needs related payment. And so we're going to meet after this training's over and we're going to determine exactly which of those fields you want to capture. And then there'll be, instead of calculating an hourly stipend, there's going to be the maximum weekly stipend you're going to enter, right? And then, does that answer that one? So the way our system is designed is all payments go through the voucher system, right? And so there's an option we can turn on that will, for training related payments, vouchers, if you pick the training category, then it'll show all of there'll be a drop down for all the trainings that they're in, and you can tell it which training that payment relates to, right? And so, but the way we do it is all payments go through the voucher side. So, because for instance, if someone's in GED and they come to you and you enroll them, you can count that GED, but you put the GED start date the day they enroll, right? And so, if you want to count that training, so if they're co-enrolled and you're counting that training, so in that training there would be no payment, right? So we decided all payments come through the voucher system. And so this is something we needed to talk about later because you have the charge codes on your training. And so we're going to have to determine whether that we're going to put those on there as well as that hourly number or that weekly number. Okay? No. So my example was if another agency is paying for their GED and they walk in your door, okay? And so a lot of times agencies don't want to count that. There's a little deal there of is it a training or is it a REO basic ed? Because there's some short-term trainings that can be counted as related assistance only. Okay, and so you have to decide which ones you want to count as trainings. Okay, terrific. Okay, and that's, okay, so, okay, thank you. So, make, all right, so yes, so that field, where they're at exit is totally separate from where, was it training related, and that, I got confused, so I apologize. And so, so definitely, so any of the things that are right out of the pearl that it asks, then we don't have the option to add options because it won't accept them. Right? But anything else we can change, or we can make it work differently. So there is another place where you'll put that. So what happens when you do a job placement? We keep a table that's called our enrollment jobs table. It's their employment. It's from the job placement all the way through the final follow-up. And it keeps you from having to enter the employer every time you do a follow-up, basically, or multiple employers. So it just basically, when you do a follow-up, and we get to it here in a little bit, it'll look and see who they're employed at for that period for the follow-up and apply that to the follow-up. And each time you put in an employer, you'll pick the same thing. Was that employment training related? Right, so you may have 3 employers, and one of them was training related. That allows us to tell the Pearl that, yes, their employment's training related. Right, so we, if there's 10 employers and one of them was training related, we're going to tell them it's training related because it was, right? And so, all right. So the actual fields on that session will change a little bit once we learn exactly what it's going, what you want to capture. Do you want to capture the tuition, and even if it's not going to print on your printout, all right? If not, then they won't be there. Okay, so most likely most of those will go away, and you'll just need to put your weekly amount, and then if you're going to use charge codes there, they'll be there as well. All right? So I think there's a maximum. Do you put in a maximum amount of supportive services as well, or just the charge code? The actual amount. Okay. A minimum and a maximum. So a minimum and a maximum. On the printout, there's just one number. So what does it use? So, so okay. All right. If if I can get a copy of the worksheet, then that'll really help. And then if we can have it do it automatically, we'll do that. We will. I always keep. Right, but I always keep every list as small as possible. So if it only applies to one field office, the field office the client is enrolled in, that's all that will be in the list. Okay. Um, all right. So if I go on with the exit and I click exit here, it's going to tell me all receipts must be entered prior to exit. This one we'll have to talk about as well because some of your procedures, the receipt may not be back yet. All right, so we're going to work on exactly how to make that work. Do you, I mean, the options there is we can just turn it off. It won't ask the question. But I think it's going to be a little more complicated than that, and we'll get it worked out. Can I enter the receipt first, or do you have a question? Okay. So to enter the receipt, I go to the vouchers. When it tells me that I need to enter a receipt, I select the voucher, and the 4th button, it'll pop up and say enter receipt for the hint. And the receipt can be, let me see, it's $50 voucher. Now I'm going to put $51 in, and it's going to tell me no. All right. Well, it told me. Okay. It must be more than 0 and less than the amount. Okay, so, but I can put in 41.34 for the situations where you, like a gas voucher, and they come back, or you take them and you, however that works. Okay, so it can be less, but it cannot be more than the voucher amount. Okay. Now, one of the things is we've added follow-up services. So you, anytime you add a voucher or a follow-up, there's the checkbox for this is a follow-up, provided as a follow-up service. So it's on the, where'd I put it up? Yeah, here at the top. Once they're exited, you're going to have to click that. It won't allow you not to enter it without it being a follow-up service. Okay. With that, we have to put the logic together to make sure that when you go to exit, it's not asking for receipts on something that's a follow-up service, because that's after exit possibly. So we're working through the logic of that. Okay. So now I have the receipts. All services except case notes must be locked prior to exit. Okay, locked or voided. Okay, so basically that's the system saying that I haven't got to validate this service. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me finish this and I'll go back to the receipt. Okay, so it tells me that it has to be locked or voided, and the reason is because it needs to validate that worksheet. And so I go back and I go ahead and print, and it validates and it locks it. Okay. Yes, on the, so we had a question on receipts. So you select the voucher. Yes. And then, correct. And then this button here is the enter receipt. And what's it doing?
I did 20.
And your voucher is how much?
20, yeah, 25.
Okay. And what's your question? Is it not working right?
I click
Oh.
OK, but do I have to upload?
There you would. Okay, so we'll go into more detail. So it's going to be up to, so you have a lot of different ways that the receipt's going to get entered, I think. So if you have the receipt, yes, you would enter it and you would upload that documentation into the system. I think you're also going to email that to accounts payable, right? Because they need that receipt. Right? So we're going to have to put together a desk reference. I know Sherry's going to be in on this, I hope, of exactly what the steps are for each type of payment, each payment method, we're going to call it. Okay, and so when we're done here today, we're going to be meeting to talk through it all. So if there's any input you want to give to make sure we have all the information we need in order to have that discussion, that would be great. So I think we went through most of it yesterday. Okay, so I don't know exactly when you have a receipt or when accounts payable pays it. Okay, so it sounds like on your current voucher you have a checkbox for local or corporate paid. Okay, I think we're going to use the payment method to determine that, because that payment method is going to be I have them written down. It's going to be your bank card or so forth, and that's going to tell the system that, well, it's the bank card, we know you pay that local, right? So it's going to ask for the receipts for those and so forth. Right? If it was paid by accounts payable, then you don't have the receipt, right? And so it won't ask. So if I go on another step, it told me it still needs to be marked. See what I did wrong. Probably my second revision. Oh, okay. I'm going to void this one. I noticed a small issue with it yesterday, and it may have done it again. Looks like it. I'll test it out. I just wrote that worksheet, and it's putting the system in out of sync, which means the save data threw an error, so I will figure it, look at the log. Right. Okay, so this is how you calculate the needs. how much you pay them. So if there is an algorithm to it, then I can program the algorithm. There's also your budget as well. So if it calculates 500 and your budget doesn't allow it, there's got to be a process. You've got it? Okay. All right. Sure. And we can do that. All right. Give me just a moment here and I'll. It didn't disconnect me. All right. Let me see what happens here. This is where the fun comes in. Okay. Okay. All right. So we're back. So now we're good. All right. All right, so this is a different message. So this one will come up and say that before you can exit the client, all the items need to be documentation received, okay? And so there's a receive tab, and basically that mark is saying that quality control has checked off on it, okay? And so you'll need to call who that is. Right now it's Karika, I believe. And so if I look, there's some that are marked as no. So as quality control, I can go through and select these and I can open them. I can look at them. I can view the actual item and do it from there. Or I can click it as received here. Received. Okay. So as WDS, you probably cannot. As a case manager level, you can't click the receive. That's for MIS to do. All right. So when I finally get the system to tell me an exit date, which is going to be the date of last service, then it's passed all of its checks, okay, and it's ready to exit the client. And this is where if you don't agree with the date, then you talk with your supervisor and then get a hold of us and we'll walk through it. And we do it quite often, and it's no problem. It's what we do. That's what we're there. So if there's any questions, call. And so basically, I just click yes, and it's going to go through and print out an exit document, and my client is now considered inactive, and they're in the follow-up process. Now, confused inactive. Inactive just means it only shows when the active only is checked or not. It's just for the filter, okay? It's still going to give you to-dos for that you need for follow-up is due, and then I'm learning more about your follow-up services you provide, so we make sure that it's providing you with that as well. So if I go in and I'm doing a follow-up service and it needs received, it's still going to provide to-dos. It's still going to do everything, okay? And so so there's some guidance, I guess, from Marcy in a little handbook she's putting together that she's having some of us review that talks about follow-up services for youth, and we're going to discuss that this afternoon as well. And It's actually saying you will provide one every 90 days or something in it, but it's more of a just to make sure that they're on track, okay, for the youth. So I think we want to stop here and get everyone to catch up if you can, if you're having trouble with your client, to get them exited. Where are we at on time? I think we're doing good. 9 o'clock. So, yes, any questions? More discussion? Discussion is good? Yes. Okay, so apparently, so my cloud guy didn't give me my VPN last night, and so I can't run my normal update process, and some field didn't get added to the server. And so he's just now getting to work in Central Time Zone and reading my email, and so he's probably not real happy at the moment, but I'll have it today. So what I'm going to have to do then is probably void those for you, and it's going to lock up. So actually, you can void it. You may have to close it and log back in, and then when you click on it, it won't let you. What is your client's name? I'll just have to exit every time I do one. I can do something different. Let me go into the database and void them all. Give me a couple minutes and I'll run a quick query and manipulate it. Come on. Where is it? What is the name of that worksheet? I'm not seeing it. What is the name of that? Do you have that open? I need the exact name of the service type.
Financial literacy.
Financial literacy, okay. All righty. I wanted to verify. So I can go in and void every one of those. If you will refresh your client, you may have to close and rerun it. The financial literacies will all be voided now. And then I'll see why. So I run a process called SQL Compare that compares our release database with the server database, and I can't run it right now.
Going through closing out this
Work experience?
market as complete work experience, I noticed that drop-down box doesn't populate it. Is there something I'm missing on the?
Okay, no, it's a setup that needs to be added. So I'm waiting on a list from Karika for the work experience. So that's going to give you a problem. So you would have to void it to be able to exit. All right. So So the deal was if you did a work experience, the type of training, there's nothing in it yet. And so that just needs to be, so there's 11 different options, and they don't apply to each type of, each worksheet. And so I'm waiting, Karika's gonna send me the list that she wants for work experience to be in that type of training. So basically the types of training is every possible type of training, and a work experience, occupational skills training doesn't apply, so it only populates the ones that we want in it. So is it allow you to void it? So you may have to void it because there's nothing for the work experience in that list yet. I need to make sure I go through my email because she may have sent it to me in the last couple of days. Let me put in a note. All right, I have a note to make sure it gets filled in. All right, so I think there's only 2 that's going to apply to work experience, but we just have to put them in a table and they show up. All right. So are we able to exit? Yes. The size of, what is it?
I keep clicking on this and nothing comes up.
You need to select the actual, not the header. Yeah, click on that and then click the button. So you have to select which item. So this one is you need to go to the worksheet and close the session and whoop. Don't do that to a vet.
How do I exit this person?
Okay.
If I want to delete an assistance only, it doesn't let me.
So, okay, so, all right, so was not placed. Okay, so the exit category doesn't let you change, and it's trying to set it as another reason. And so, so it would be that. So this was a reportable individual, or what services did they receive?
CDL.
So, okay, so we've got to change one thing,
Okay.
and we had it on our webinar a couple weeks ago discussing it. So what we did, so right now if you go to the exit, it maybe shows other reasons for exit. And so we're just now determining the logic, because what we try to do is exclude clients, if possible, from your performance. So in WIA, that was fine. The difference between employment training exiter and other reasons, none of the addition apply, was the same. It didn't change anything with your performance. Now they want to count employment training exiters. Right, so we'll change that to where it defaults to that. Okay, but for now, you can just exit them that way, and it'll be the same. It'll still calculate out the performance the same because it's not excluded. So there's just one count. The way the DOL's counting now, that it needs to say it.
So now I'm up to the part where you said only enhanced supervisors can check this off.
Okay, so you need everything verified. That's going to be fun. What is your client name? So we're going to probably take a break here. So when you get to the point where you need to your client and everything needs to be checked off for documentation received, I could cheat. I could just go write a little hack that allowed it to work. Maybe easier for the day. So let me see if I can't do them real quick. Alma? Second one. From the bottom? From the top. I see Monica. That one? Okay. All right, so if you'll click Tools, Release Lock up at the top, then it'll give me the lock. There we go. And once it So I did some code to get rid of the flicker for the initial assessment since it's gotten very large. They get a to-do. They get a to-do item. When it's time for that to happen, once the last signature is signed, it's actually going to automatically check it. So basically, they'll get a to-do item for needing to sign, and before they sign, they're going to verify it, right? And so, but we have the option set to once that last signature is captured, it automatically checks it. There are some agencies that want it to go to another person for MIS, just quality control. To me, it's kind of doing the same thing again. And so we just have it automatically check it for you, okay? Because you're not doing the signatures and it didn't automatically check them. The receipt? The receive. So when you go to exit, for you, it's just for visual reference. Correct. But you can go to it and you can see that they haven't signed something because it's not checked or it says no. And then you can call them and say, please sign that or look at that document and sign it for me. Approve it. And so we will try to get everyone exited before we take a break. Then we'll have follow-ups and back office reporting. So I'm going to go and run a query that just automatically checks all of your services as received, so that I don't have to do that with each. Just for training purposes only. Right. And there. So if you'll tab off of your services tab, if you're on it, and tab or the received or something, and tab back, then they should all be set to yes now. Yours I did manually. Everybody else I just ran a query. I cheated. Your computer just doesn't like you. Is it working?
Look at that. But, so these right here, these are not something that they have been seeing in ETO.
Okay.
So the question just is, is this something that's there because it's required?
It is. It's Pearl questions that they threw up there, and so we just found it. If we didn't know where to put them, we kind of put them on the exit, so we can default them. I think they do, okay? And so that's what. If they didn't default, then we can default them, and we might actually hide them if they're always going to be the same thing. I can go into the Pearl and we can look at each one and discuss and try to, once I reference it, then I know, okay, I know why they're asking that, and most of them, but at first I did not, I'll be honest. When I received the 800 and something element Pearl, I about quit, and then they came in, Andrew said, we're only going to do 226, only 226, from 96 in WIA to 226, and we thought we had until November 14th to get it working, and they said we want active participants, which meant we had 5 weeks from the time they told us until we had to have it working, and we got it done. And all our clients reported on time, but a lot of things got stuck on the exit, and I'll show that now. So they ask in the Pearl a lot of co-enrollment questions, and it's one of the things that we do default in the system. If you go to your exit screen, and you scroll down, they're there. Concurrent program enrollments, concurrent participation, sorry. So there's a service that's a partner referral if you're sending them out to a partner, but when if you're talking to them or when they enroll, they're enrolled in another program, you can go here and select that program, and it will report it to Department of Labor. See, they're trying to make a push, but I don't think very few agencies are actually capturing that information. That's why it's kind of there. Um, so if we want to get active with it, then we can put it in the right place, move it around. So I think we were asked to kind of make it hidden, and I'm like, well, we got to ask the question somewhere, and so it's there. Um, so some of these they asked, they wanted the actual grant number and so forth, and so I don't think we ask any of them. So okay. Okay, so what we do is if you select it to yes and the Pearl asks for the grant number, um, in the company preferences, we just put all the grant numbers, and I need your grant numbers actually. Um, so the NFJP grant number actually gets set with each division because they all have their own grant number. Um, and so, um, so once we have the workflow down, which we're getting close, then I'm going to make a pass through to make sure that we have everything we have. And I guess I'll do that before Friday to make sure. I know you're keeping a list, but I'll go through it as well and say I need this, I need this, I need this, because it just popped in. That so the option inside of the Pearl is if you don't know the grant number to put in 14 nines, and so we just put in the nines here and it just reports what's here, and that allows it to pass through. Okay, and so basically if Telamon has this grant, then we can put the number in. If Telamon doesn't have the grant, we can just report nines. Right? That yes, they're in a program, but you don't know the grant number. If you do know the grant number and we want to capture and report it, then we can. I know that DOL is a long way from getting to that part with the Pearl. They're still trying to get it to work. All right, and so I got that email from Social Policy Research's programmer yesterday and replied to our Pearl submission, our test file. It was error-free because they haven't touched their code since April, since the last submission, because they didn't think that it was going to be reported through them this quarter either. And since it's not going to be in the future, they're probably not going to add any more code to it, right? And so, but that's good for this quarter. That means that your pearls should work if it worked last quarter, because she said I haven't added anything to it since the last submission. Okay. So it'll be real fun in November with the whips. Okay, what's it telling you? The selected session is logged. Add a new session to make changes. What are you trying to do to it?
Just add the actual the day of the employment
Of
in order to exit.
okay. So what button did you click? Which list?
I select here.
Right.
And modify here.
Right. Okay, let me read it. Okay. Revision is locked. A new version to make changes. Oh, correct. Okay. So you want the change? So you're on the IEP and you're on revision 1. So you want to modify their then you add a new revision here. So once the revision is locked, then you add a new revision. by clicking up here in this list and putting in the date. Let's see, as long as it's a different date, okay, it will allow it. And it added revision 2.
Okay.
And it shows which one's selected here. And then you can now go in and modify. You can't delete the stuff from revision 1, but you can add. And it'll be descending, so the latest revision will be at the top.
So this one to exit, it says no, the voucher.
Oh, I didn't do vouchers. Okay, let me do. I'll do the same for vouchers here so that they're verified. If you'll click off that tab and back, it should say yes. Can you verify that for me? Okay. Yes. This is always the fun part.
Where am I here?
You're
Okay, now I'm going to exit, okay?
right.
And I get this, and it says, oh, never mind. I was getting a thing
Okay.
when I hit it.
I just set them all as received for vouchers.
Okay.
They weren't marked as received. I just did services. Yep.
When I go back to
Can you? Okay.
the services, close out.
Yeah, it's asking you something.
Oh, do the Fox thing.
Oh, you just, what's it asking? Oh, the Foxy
Fox
Reader?
is not currently default.
Oh.
You want to set
Oh, it should be. So you can hit yes. It's just your user's a new profile. Otherwise, it's going to ask you every time.
Close. Oh, here we are. Services.
Hoorah.
Vouchers not there.
They're in a different tab.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so they're not.
All right.
Let me show the last piece though. Okay, so our vouchers don't show in the service tab. They show in the vouchers tab, but we do have, if you're on the main screen of the participants tab, then we have a report here that most users print this when you exit a client, and you go and you right click and you go to the case note summary, and I don't have case notes, so I'm going to go to the services received summary. This is going to show chronological order of events. Okay, and so is it or it's not? That client doesn't have anything. Let me find my client. All right, something's not right. Go to case note summary. So this did originally just printed case notes, but now it prints everything that's happened to the client from the beginning through the end. Right, so you get, here we have initial assessment, the date, objective assessment, the date and notes and so forth. So if you print this, I don't have any case notes, but they would be in their chronological order. So if you're keeping a case file, which I think when you're going to go digital. Yeah, sorry. Let me scroll back up. So like for voucher, we give more detail, and we can break more detail for anything. So what we have users do, if you're keeping a physical case file, is to print this and put it on top. Because a lot of time the FBO or auditor they can scan through that and they're happy, they go on to they don't dig. Anything we can do to keep them from digging. Also, any case file printout has a little information on the side, so if it's in a file, you can flip through and find what you're looking for. Right? And so just try to keep it. Now we're going to go digital, right? So where you're going to print your PDF, put it into a document imaging system of a sort. Once we figure that out, and not have to print out a case file. Right, we have that working in Oklahoma. Now partner company came in and set up their Laserfish. I have some. You have a different one. There's 3 or 4 that are really good. You have one of them. It just has to be. Those systems can do a lot of different things, so they have to be set up to your workflows and stuff. So, but we'll figure that part out. Right. So right now you're going to do physical case file still. So right now, yes. Okay. So um, we'll need to let the other two know because they weren't. They thought you were not going to print them. I was told. So we just Michigan and Atlanta. Yeah. Okay. So um, so it's okay. It's just getting everybody on the same page. And so and me. So okay. Any questions? Any more questions about trying to exit your client if you're doing that? Yeah. Okay. I'll be right there.
For some reason, every time we try to put employment training editor, it defaults back to.
Okay, so and that is a good one. Let me show you this. So the category of exit is determined by the system, okay? And so what we did in the past was anyone that did not have a job placement, it tries to make them another reason for exit because they were going to count negative because most agencies only followed up with those that they job placed. And so we tried to exclude them, all right? And so I have some code already that I'll have to apply that basically anyone that has a training or a job placement needs to be, if they're a participant, they need to be employment and training exeter, right? And so that will change. Right now, if you'll just go with, it counts the same as far as performance. If it's other reasons for exit and none of the other apply, but now DOL has a number they're calculating how many exiters were employment and training. So we can't get away with that trick anymore. And so we have the little function that calculates the default category of exit, and I have to change it. We talked about it on our last webinar to get the logic, and I think we have it right. So basically, if they're a participant, they're going to be an employment training exeter. If you need an override, so on my screen, there's an admin override default category of exit. So if you don't, if it says employment and training now, and they are another reason for exit, then you call your supervisor up and they can click that checkbox. And so once that's checked, then you can change that category of exit to what you deem it is. All right? Now the Export Pro may give you an error if there's a logic check that won't allow it. But most of the times that would be to make them another reason for exit and exclude them from the measures. So I will do so rather than just talking about it. Other reasons for exit, and so there are two in here they're not counting as exceptions. One of them is ineligible, and the other one is none of the other conditions apply. Any of the other reasons will exclude that client or that customer from your performance measures. Right? So anytime someone disappears on you, you want to try to make them another reason for exit any way that you can so they don't hurt your performance. And so I always find it interesting that DOL doesn't give you the benefit of the doubt for people because people are not predictable. And if they disappear on you, it's not your fault, but they're going to count it against you. And so if you have UI wage data, that's great. We'll get into that in a bit. If you don't, even if you do, it may only be North Carolina's. And if they go across the state line to work, it's not going to be in that database. So it's good to keep real good contact with your clients, customers. Okay. It would be none of the other conditions apply, or if they have a placement or a training, it's going to be employment training. That's DOL. Right. I'm sorry. I was last night in my head, it just popped in my head, why did I use that example? Because it happens. It's happened in my time, it's happened 4 times. Okay? And I get a call every time because it doesn't happen that often, so people are not sure what to do. And so the other one is medical reasons. All right? That one happens quite often. Health or medical. Okay, that will exclude them from the performance calculations. And what I've been told is if they're having to take care of their mother, that can sometimes apply too. So we want to research the situation and see. Right? So if I don't know if they're relying, you have to talk to every FPO has a different opinion. I'm not sure what each one is. Is it criminal? Criminal offender? Yeah, so they're criminal. Criminal. Okay. Institutionalized, I think, is hospital institutional, maybe for psychological reasons. I'm not certain. This is a list that the DOL said, here's all your options. And so, but I would think that's institutionalized. But, yeah, mental health. And I've been there a few times. You know, last night I was close. Right. They broke it out. They did. They broke it out, and also mainline programs have different definitions and everything, so they put them all into one list. And then foster care. It's in there. So I think that would be that you had a foster child, a youth that you enrolled in foster care, or even if they weren't in foster care and they got put into foster care and it moved them out of your area or your region, then you would be foster care, because that's out of their control. Right? So when they first come out with common measures and I analyzed what it was doing, I called Andrew, and actually we met at a conference in Tucson, and I told him, you know what, this is going to make agencies be selective of who they let in their program. And he said, that's not the intent, but that's what happened, right? And it's just reality. If someone comes in 4 different times and walks away on you, you might want to think about the 5th time, way before that, right? But that's not the intent, but that is. So what they did was they constantly, every time people met the performance, they raised the goals. Well, just keep tightening the screws, and that makes it to where you have to be selective of who you let in your program. You want to try to stabilize them before you put them into, make them a participant. If you have the different funding to do so, then you use that. If you have partners, use that to get them stable, so that you have to make the call of whether you think they're going to go finish the training, be employed, and stay there for a year. Because one of the things they're tracking is, are they employed in the same place in the 4th quarter after exit as they were in the 2nd quarter after exit? Right? And the system automatically does that. Now, if they weren't employed there in the 3rd quarter after exit, we're still going to say yes, because if they went back to that place for 1 day during that 4th quarter, then we can say yes. So we try to be very positive. I brought that up at Rocky Mountain High, and I saw Ray over there writing down. I was like, uh-oh. And it just says, are they working at the same place in the 4th quarter after exit as they were in the 2nd quarter after exit? It doesn't say were they employed the whole time at that place. So we can find the loopholes, as long as we're following the rules. All right, I'm going to go back to the right exit category here so that I can demonstrate later for the reporting. Right, so first I'm going to clear my exit date. And then I don't know, do we want to take a quick break? It's 9:30. Take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back, and then we'll go through the follow-ups and the procedures. Okay? we've got a few left. We'll give them a moment. No. Give me a couple more minutes. Yeah, did you get my text? I've emailed her 3 times on it. Okay, could be, okay. Oh, you should then, yeah, definitely. Normally, if she doesn't send it, that means it's not completed. She told me she was finishing it, but maybe she didn't have time, but I better just get what she has, it's better than nothing. So we're missing 4 or 5. We've got a few that are still out. I'm just going to give them another minute, but if they're not back, I'm going to go ahead. So I would like to go through the follow-up procedures for the video at least, and then we can stop and answer questions if, and then they can cut that part out if they want. So what I do first is I follow up on a placed client before the exit. Okay, so once they have a job placement, then AVP will start asking for follow-ups. It doesn't know yet which ones it's going to use to report the 4 quarters after exit, okay? Because since the exit's retroactive. Now, you're the 4th out of our clients that use quarterly follow-ups rather than monthly. So the system will do either one, but it's configured to do monthly for you, or quarterly, sorry, reverse that. So 5 days is our default value, but it's a setting. So 5 days before the end of the quarter, you'll get a to-do saying follow-up due for such and such client, okay? Now, we have a setting to where it'll only do that after exit, but normally we start because you don't know when the exit's going to be. And with that, I think you have a procedure in place to make contact with your client monthly. You can put in a case note, so forth. It's going to ask you once every 30 days. It's going to say case note due in the to-do. You just right-click and it'll open up the case note there, or you can open the client's file up there. So if I had a to-do telling me to do a follow-up, I go to my follow-up tab, and it's very busy now. So the list is kind of small at the top, but you're only going to have 4 or 5 in there, right? So first it's calculated totals. They're all at 0. And then there's an override column for enhanced supervisors or administrative staff can override your numbers if they have UI wage data. Now, if you override it, it's going to use the override. So it's not as an override rather than the bigger of the two. Right? And so be careful with the override. And once there's an exit date and as time elapses, once the first full quarter after exit is over, it's going to turn red. It's going to want the setting here to make sure it matches. With quarterly follow-ups, it's not really an issue to say, because if you say they're employed on a quarterly follow-up, we can set that to employed, and so forth, and we'll make it do that. But currently, you have to go separately and set each quarter's where you got the information, and then whether they're employed or not. Now, if you go ahead and set them as employed in the 4th quarter, and that data is not going to be reported in the PRO yet because there's this 6-month wait, the system automatically figures out what to put in. Right? So it looks at their exit date, it figures out their exit periods, it waits 6 extra months to put that in the PRO because we're not going to put it in until it's required. And so, as Andrew said, don't give up information you don't have to. And so, so to add a follow-up, I have my add button here. and it looked at the job placement, and then it comes up with the period, right? And so I will hit OK and add my follow-up. If it comes up and says it can't find the period, there's no job placement, you just select the period, okay, that you wanted to follow up on. So first off, it did not default. I noticed this the other day, and we'll set that setting. I have a task already to do so. And so those are new, tracking where it was provided and so forth. Employed any time during the follow-up period, and then how you verified this information that they were employed. All right. Again, we can extend that list if you have a list of verifications. So it has the employer in this list in the middle is all the jobs that they're working during this period of time. And so it went ahead and applied the job from the job placement. And so the top button in this instance is the one time that it's not an ad, okay? So if I click the top button, it's going to bring up their employment history from the job placement all the way through the final follow-up. And so if they're working multiple jobs, then I would do so, and I would add the job here and say they're working in a different place. And then the ONET code of, I think they moved it. Does anybody know the title? Okay. I don't know. Oh well, it's not important. So I find the title and so forth. Now here is this job training related? So you only have to set that when you add the job. So training related, yes or no? So this job I'm adding is training related. And then the NAIC code that again, we'll have a list in the database. Currently, you have to look it up. And then whether they're receiving fringe benefits from that job. So the things we think that will stay static for that job. Okay, I'll get to you in just a minute if you would wait, please. So when I save that, then I put in, let me look at my dates. October 2016. Then now it shows both jobs. And so if they were no longer employed at one of the jobs or any job, you select it and you edit it, and you select job ended and put the date that they no longer were employed there. Okay. When you close that, it's going to reapply the list of employment to my list in the middle. So it takes the job start dates and end dates and figures out every job that they worked during that quarter and applies it to the list. So normally, if they're at the same employment, all you do is add the follow-up, answer whether they're employed or not, and select each position, and you hit the edit button in the middle, and it'll ask you for their supervisor's name, the hours they're working each week, what their wage is, and the period earnings. Okay, so that's going to be a quarter in your scenario. And then how you verified that. And again, you would upload the documents, right? If they're employed but they didn't work that quarter, maybe they're seasonal there. If you want to keep that employment there, you can. You just select it and hit no wages for that period. Or you can toggle it if you change your mind. So it's a toggle. Okay. So what it's going to come up down to is it's going to calculate out the total earnings during the follow-up period. Okay. And so whatever that is. And so it just how much they made at each position or each job. Okay. And so I'll get to your question in just a moment. Okay. For the youth, there's these two extra fields at the bottom. This little panel pops up, which takes away most of our real estate. And we'll figure out a better way to do this later. Right now it's asking, and it'll turn red once the time has elapsed and it has to be answered. Youth placement type second quarter after exit and fourth quarter after exit. And so the options in the pool, military, no placement at all. Hopefully you're not going to have to use that one. Occupational skills training, post-secondary training, registered apprenticeship, secondary education, and unsubsidized employment. So if they're working a job, then it's unsubsidized employment. Right? So, and I'm not really sure how they're going to calculate what with that, but anything, my understanding is anything is a placement except for no placement for the youth. And that's where I was talking yesterday about something to do with how they're enrolled, what their school status is in enrollment, and how it works the second and fourth quarter. I don't think they're sure yet. They might be, but I haven't gotten answers on it. So, but anyway, this wouldn't be time to fill that out. So I'm done with my follow-up. I print it, and I cleared it. So let me go back and put it back. So it locks it. I'm done. And apparently the report didn't get uploaded, didn't print. Well, it printed on Friday. I did an update. Okay, since I paused anyway, you have a question? Okay. All right. All right, so now let's see. I've got October to December. My exit date is way out there. Okay, so I'm going to go change the date. That's correct, 2018. So I'm going to do one more. We're going to say that March elapses and the 90 days are up. It's going to figure out the next follow-up period, January through March of 2018. There's a little I here, next, a little button with an I on it for information. And so right now there's no exit date, so it's just going to tell me so. But this button is what tells you what the periods are once it knows. Okay, so date of exit, active enrollment, they're not exited. But I will do the second one to demonstrate. There we go. Employed, yes. Verified. And okay. All right. So now we have wages. What do we have? 2,000. So I'll print that to make sure it's good. And now say I did that follow-up, and I know with quarterly this is not really going to happen, but I just wanted to demonstrate it. So the 90 days expire. I'm going to exit my client, and I go do so. Once the system has that date of exit, then the follow-up tab will respond accordingly. And now there's wages in that first quarter after exit because it knows when that is. All right. And so now it can tell you what first full quarter after exit, January 1 of 2019 through March 31st of 2019, and so on. All right. And so that's the same as on those first 3 quarters prior to exit. We can put the dates. Sure, you can calculate it. And why not? I mean, it makes sense. So so once there's that exit date, so it's whatever day they exited in a quarter, what report starts the next quarter as far as calendar quarter. Okay, so January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, October 1st, right? And so the system will give you a to do a follow-up until it no longer needs the data. If you never exit them, it's going to continue asking, right? So if you do a job placement and then 89 days in you provide a career counseling, it's going to keep asking for follow-ups. Okay? So once it has all 4 of these quarters full, it won't ask anymore. Okay? So, all right. So, all right. So are we doing follow-ups? We're already done. Well, that was easy. we try to make it easy process because it's not so easy when you're trying to find someone and their employer won't return your call and so forth, right? Yes. So right now, every item in the list for verified by can say whether it wants a description or not, and we're just going to get that list for you of what documents you use to verify follow-ups. Okay, and we need to put them in the list. Some agencies have asked us just to leave other and make you just type it in every time. So that to me, we get a list. It's going to be the same documents that you verify in work history, probably, right? And so we just need to build out the list. So it's set up to be quarterly right now. It should. Okay, it uses the same worksheet. So what we'll use is period. So where it says income total earnings during the follow-up period, it'll be the same on that question. It's already in my deal. I saw it Friday. Okay. One of the other things is since you are doing quarterly follow-ups and you just told it that they're employed, then we should be able to tell them they're employed. The issue is there's more than one employed. What type of employed? And so we can move that to the follow-up because it's yes, they're employed, yes, registered apprenticeship, yes, military. So we had to turn off where it automatically set it because we don't ask it on our follow-up. And so we can change where it asks for employed anytime during the quarter to ask how they're employed. So we can ask those three options there, and when you click it, there's no reason to ask it again, right? And so I mean, I'll tell you, we went through and we made it work for WIOA, and now we're making another pass to clean up things such as that. And I'm surprised with the three agencies that use the quarterly follow-ups that they haven't told me it said month, right? But that's cosmetics, very quick. With the next update, it'll be done. Okay, so theoretically, I'm not going to see the to-dos because it's my exit my client in the future. Okay, so but you just continue doing those follow-ups until you're done. Now that gets us into the conversation of follow-up services. Right? Right now, every service type is set to allow provided as a follow-up service, but I added a setting into the service type table. If there's only certain ones that you would provide as a follow-up service, we can set it so they cannot provide the others, like an occupational skills training or something, if that doesn't apply. It's new to me, so I'm seeing exactly what you do as follow-up services. And so Marcy's handbook had a little blurb in there for the youth, and it's one thing it's in a handbook that's not in TEGL and so forth. So everyone's having to educate me on the youth because until WIOA came out, no one had ever asked me to do anything about youth. And now we've done youth, and then also if you get NFJP housing money, we can turn on a flag, and it'll also because it does the same thing. It's the same eligibility and everything else. So you don't have it anymore. Then it's turned off right now, but everything will work with it, and it'll separate it accordingly. So if it comes back, so. Okay, questions now? Yep. No, once you have an exit date, then it can figure out the time frames, and it will take the income from your follow-ups and plug those. So the calculated totals are read-only. Okay, so once I put in an exit date, it figured out that my exit date was in December of 2018. So the first quarter after exit is January 1. Well, this follow-up is January through March of 2019. It took the total income for that quarter, and it plugged it into the first quarter's field. So the override would be if there are UI wage data, then you would put that in there. Okay. So we do default the match type to non-UI wage verification, and then if they're employed. If this is set to no, there's a logic check that catches it because they won't allow us to put in a number for the wages. and employment set to no. They force it to one of the three in the whips. And so the backside will catch it. And so, all right. Well, then let's go do the fun part now of it takes all this data you're putting in and it creates the WIOA plan versus actual. And I'm not sure how much data I'm going to have, but we're going to see what it shows us here. And so, you do it by division, or you can break it out down to field office level. And we have nothing. We have some fourth quarter. Okay. This is under administrator admin reports. So I think we have a setting that allows the field office allows supervisors to run this for your field office. Okay, you may not see that right now. So do you have a reports menu? Do you have case manager reports? What you have? Okay, so you won't see this part. So do you want me to go through this with all staff? Would y'all like me to go through this back office piece with everyone, or just with supervisors? I'm sorry? We can turn it on. It's no big deal. If it's just some agencies, I don't know why. I really don't know the answer. To me, it's like, let everybody see them. It's easy to open out. Okay, would you limit it to their division? Okay. Okay, I can do that. That's not hard at all. So let me add that. I even brought it up that maybe we should do this down to the user so the user could see how their performance is. And then I had one agency finally say, yeah, we would like that. And so it's on a list to do so. I have a never-ending list. It's just continuous. But I did get three replies to my ad for programmers. So when I get home, hopefully I'll get some help. The last guy got in, I think he was intimidated or something. It's like, to learn. The programmers like to be the smartest guy in the room or something half the time. I never had that problem. I want to learn from somebody. So if I go and I print this, then it's going to go through and it's only going to count items that are marked as received. So that means everybody's signatures on them. They've been approved. And so if I look here, then I have all the numbers from the plan versus actual in your Q&R report that gets sent in every quarter. And then we also added total participants served, which is a carryover from WIA. A lot of agencies wanted that in order to calculate. And then we realized that the only time that's different than the total current participants at the end of period is if someone exits on the first day of a quarter, so their 90 days expires in the same quarter they exit. So there is a time where it won't be the same number. It's pretty rare. I've seen it happen. And so we have the exits, we have everything here. And so if I'm reconciling and I want to say, well, who's counting as an exit, then I can go back and I can print there's two reports here. There's a PSS breakdown for WIOA. The WIA ones are still here. Some clients like to use them because they break the trainings down further. And so I can come here and print now. This PSS breakdown is what happened exactly in this quarter. And the breakdown cumulative is what happened from the first of the program year to the end of a given quarter. And so if I want to look at the fourth quarter, and since the report itself is cumulative, I'll run the cumulative report in the fourth quarter. And so it's going to have a breakdown for each row on the other report. So it's going to show you exactly who it's counting in each section. Total participants served is 17 is what it said on the quarterly, and so that's what we have here. So then it breaks it down by field office to show you who it's counting. And so if you're reconciling, or Karika, whoever does the reconciling, I guess at each state that does the reporting, if it's off, or if they keep a master list and they say, well, I have 18 and your system's saying 17, then we just have to cross-reference and figure it out and look at that client and see why they're not counting. And um, and so this report can get very long. And so one of the things that we're been asked to do is to break it out, where it'll only show the exits, not, you can go see what pages that are down, but it's easy for us to just create separate little reports for each one. The coding is already there. The hard part is getting the data captured and calculating it right. And so just displaying it differently is the easy part. And so that is the PSS reporting. If for some reason you don't want to count an exit in a given quarter or some other item, I could go to a client and I can adjust this. This doesn't happen as much now that we're digital signatures and stuff, but when things are being mailed in, if this exit is in the system, it's real time, but it has not been, the mail hasn't been received by MIS or quality control, they don't want to report it to DOL yet, then you can push it off to it further in, and it will report it when you tell it to. So basically, when it happens, it puts it in a bucket, and you can change which bucket it's in. All right. The other back office process is the Pearl. And so we will go run that. So export the Pearl. And let's do the fourth quarter, because that's what we just ran the report for, right? And click load. It's going to go through and it's going to find everyone exited for 8 quarters before this quarter or in this quarter. So 9 quarters of exiters and all participants that receive services or were active in the current quarter. And so it goes through and it runs all the logic checks and edit checks and some of our own that every time we upload and we test on a monthly basis with the WIPs and with Spur, if they come back with an error, we add another logic check in here to get it ready. So every quarter it gets fun because DOL is, the WIPs is being built by DOL, not by NFJP. And so their update schedule is the last day of every month. And so we have to report on the 45th day from the end of the quarter. So that's August the 14th. So they updated, they actually did in this quarter, it seems like. But normally they would update on the last day of the month. And then right now we have to, I tested it and I tell Spurs programmer there were these errors and they have to go change their system to match the WIPs. And so we have to wait till maybe the 10th before she tells me that it's ready. And we have to test and we have to do an update and then tell everybody now you can report. And everybody has to run through and clean up their data. And so you can right click. If it's red, there's an issue with the file. So I can open the file and it's got every Perl element that's being reported. And actually it's every NFJP element. And then I can click on just show me the ones with issues. And so this one is, there's a training that the type of training was not set, all right? So once the worksheet is added, it goes into the Perl. Unlike the PSS, it waits till you click receive to report it. For the Perl, we take all the data and create the Perl. So I could open up this client, I can close that, and I can reconcile it as I work my way down. I can open up the case file and find the issue. So we have a type of training. So this one looks like it's correct, and actually I know what it is. There it is, on the job training. And if I close that, then it will rerun the checks on that one client, and we'll see what it did here. So we just moved that type of training. So we have a type of work experience. Oh, that's probably your client. So, so before we had all the options in the type of training, and we just moved it over to where it just shows Karika. We worked together. She sent me each type of training should only show this subset, and so that has to be the issue there. So it's the same on every one. So I'll look at it. And so let me look at this one. Same issue. Basic skills. So if I void it, just void the trainings for speed here. Then it cleared them. So so when you open up the client there, so whoever's doing this just works their way down the list and cleans it up. Normally, like in WIA, we had it to the point to where the only errors that were ever received were there was no FIPS codes with the zip code. And so we're doing the same here. We're just constantly working to get this smaller and smaller. So first we have to make it work where it'll upload every time they make changes. And then we have to apply it to the user interface as you're entering data to not allow it. Okay, yes? So, so James told me, yeah, it exports to Excel. So the other day I went in and tried, and it wasn't so easy. And so we're probably going to make it where it create an Excel file for you, because either that or switch back to Adobe and see if they fix their memory leaks. Theirs worked really well. Right. Right. So just export to Excel, or we'll probably do both. Right. Like, yeah. So I think I can just put a checkbox. Right. We're going to give access. So there's a setting already to let supervisors see it, but we're going to set it to let everybody have access to reports. Because right now there's case managers just get a subset of just caseload and very few. Right. Lorena? Did you have some? Okay. Oh. Right. So this plan versus actual that doesn't say WIOA is going to be the WIA. So, I mean, you can run it and look at it and so forth. And the same with the PSS breakdown, and that's the WIA report. It does show the trainings, so it breaks them out. Let's see. Yeah, it warns you that it's a WIA report. Okay, but I did the breakdown. Yeah, I did the wrong one. So in WIA, when you reported, it broke the CRTs down by occupational, or basic skills, occupational skills, and integrated skills. And so a lot of our clients ask us to leave it there. So what we're going to do eventually is get that onto our WIOA plan versus, even though they're not asking for it that way, we can still show it to you that way. And then to enter the plans, so the plan versus actual actually has the plans, and it can give you your percentages. You go to Administrator WIOA Plans and enter your plans. Okay, and when you enter a plan, you pick the field office and put in for the year. Okay, and then the plan versus actual will show you where you're at any time. Okay. You can either do it so it sums everything. So if you could put it all in one field office for the division, if that's how you do it. And then, but if you want to run the reports by field office and see the percentages, you'd want to put it in by field office. And so, so what it does when you run the division is it just sums all of them together. So, like exits, one agents like PEP, they put everything by field office, but only exits they do for the whole division. So they just put it in once. So, and I always end with, if there's other reports you need to do your job that I don't know what you need, just blank piece of paper, draw out what you need, and get it up to me, and we'll try to figure out how to get it in. Yes. Correct. Correct. So, yeah, so up to me means through your chain of command. Because if it comes directly to me, I'm going to send it to you for approval.
I have to say that I really like the, especially if they can run more of these that your Pearl that shows exactly where it's failing.
Right.
We're implementing a position in the state offices across all of our AVP states where somebody will be more responsible for data quality. So I think that'll really help us clean up data before the reports are due, and so Greek is not going crazy with hundreds of edits to fix and stuff. So if somebody at the state office is keeping an eye on it, then this gives us the ability to be much more transparent about what that is.
Right.
That's nice.
Great. So a lot of our clients, I guess they trust the system now, so they wait till the day before to do it. I would do, if it was me, I'm a little more proactive. I would do that every week and keep it up to date. That way I don't have to work all weekend when it's time to report.
Well, you don't have to remember,
Right.
a month or two ago what I did with that customer.
Correct. And then if you also know that your plan versus actual is correct because all the red is, your data is cleaner, right? And so you could go in on a Friday and there's no red, and then on Monday you go in and there's a lot of red because they're adding 10 logic checks a month to the whips until they get all of them implemented, and it's like top secret. So they don't want to tell anybody. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't run it on the export Perl. Is where, so we take the actual data from the export Perl and we do the calculations the same way they do. So at the bottom is the performance outcomes report. So instead of going through the data and running it, we export the Perl itself and we go through that data to create that performance outcomes. And it will tell you, first off, until they put in the new element to determine if they're enrolled as a youth or not, they put all of them together into one set of performance. And so we have one page for that gives you your performance measures here, and it's combined. And then we have one page for adult and one adult performance outcomes here at the top left or second row there. And then the next page will be the youth. All right. And so this would tell you your performance before you upload. Now, right now, that is working in the same as SPRA's calculations. And, while Andrew said at the conference that they're going to work with the WIPs to make sure they have the same calculations, reality is they're in competition together to do the performance work for DOL, and they don't talk a whole lot. So if you go to admin export Perl, no, it's not under the admin reports because we don't store the Perl data. We calculate it every time you export. We go get all the data from everywhere in the database. And then once that, you have to load and wait for it to get everything loaded, and then you do performance outcomes. And so it will allow it. I could turn it to what's only after. It should be actually after it's all clean. And so I got a call from Leon the other day. I love Leon. So before it was finished loading, he clicked failed only, and it only showed the ones that were finished loading failed only, and then it didn't show the next ones that were coming down. And then he said, so then I reran it. It had more red. And I was like, okay, be patient. And so let it load. It's doing 15, what is it? It's 12,000 lines of SQL code per client that it's running through to do all this processing for this little bit of logic that they want for the Perl. Right? And so now we were error-free for 9 years and 3/4 before WIOA was announced. And we've been error-free by the end of the submission period since. We've had a few errors come back because they update their system. So I test with SPR's programmer, and it's error-free. And then she adds 3 more changes because somebody else's test failed, and she didn't tell me. Everybody uploads, and we got an error. And so we're set to immediately correct it and get you to re-upload or resubmit. So we're still error-free technically, but not without working. Okay, so before that, we did not have a single error for 9 years and 3/4 when WIA. And we'll get there with WIOA when they quit changing their systems. Right? So this process, it took like a year to figure out who all was doing what, when, and where. And so the WIPS team, so once it goes to them and they're doing the calculations, so the way I worked with SPR's programmer was, okay, who's counting in this number? And she sent me all the unique IDs, and I could go through and see why, and we talked about it, and we got our systems matching. The WIPS team, they don't seem too interested in talking to anyone. So I have to go through Marcy Hampton, and it would be very easy for them to, when they show a number 93%, click on that number and have it show who's there. Well, that's not in their contract, so they're not going to do it. And so apparently I have to send a request in, and they're going to send me back a file sometime in the next year. I don't know. So next quarter is November 14th is when our calculations probably won't match the WIPs, and so we're going to be working to try. But if they don't respond, we have to backwards engineer their calculations, and it's going to be fun. Right? Yep. It's that change that I just made to the UI. It's most likely. Which one is it? Oh, I didn't change it. No wonder I didn't have very many clients. Okay. What quarter did you run? Okay. Number 6. Can you close it? Or if you have the client file open. So we'll look, and if there's anything, it's going to be the type of training. So I haven't tested that user interface change. So let me go and see what it's saying. So you have occupational training. Right, so it's set, but so I have to make a change to the Pro side. It's on my laptop, but it's not on the server. So before we just had 11 options, and whatever you said, it put it in there. Now it's actually an ID to another table, and it's not 1 through 11. It's number 23 or something. And so I just have to go change the query, and so that's what it is. But it's good to see it, so that I make sure I go do it. All right. And so if you avoid that training, it'll clear, but that's the only issue. And so let's see. Do I have a VPN yet to my server? Looks like it. There's the email. So how we do deployment is we have our SQL database that's our release database, and we make structural changes to it and code and everything. And then when we do a release, we run a tool that compares it to your system, and it tells us the differences. And so right now I don't have that link to do the test. And so I went through and I said, okay, I got to add a column. I got to do this. It's not perfect, and I've seen 2 or 3 things that kicked back because of it. And so so he got an email this morning when he woke up, and apparently he's working on it. The other way to do is I have to copy up my production to the server, and then I can compare them there. So either way, if that's what I have to do, that's what we'll do. So. As in on the main screen? Oh, you mean inside the case file? Yeah, it'd be. Well, we can try. So yeah, so I have one screen you have to open to see what it is, and then go down. Actually, it could be done, yeah. So we could actually change it so that it flows from this screen out. That's what you're saying? So open the client right here. Right. Actually, yeah, that's actually not hard to do. And so we could move that to where instead of opening back there, it opens from here. Or either or. Right. Now, actually getting to the field inside the case file is a lot more fun. And when I worked it into it, we did that with the tag software, and it was pretty interesting. All 30 programmers. So, and they sold that software for $400 million. They forgot to give me any of it, but they said thank you. Just for the flow. Right. Right. That we can do. Yeah. To go to the perfect spot is where I'd say I'd rather go to the browser because it would take just as much work as to get it. We're going to take not just to the browser and rewrite everything because we are over the years we've had these little things to do this for one client, whatever. So we'll re-architect that to make it clean. But the user interface is the same, but it's pure browser. So, but it has the tabs and everything else, so that you don't have to retrain, okay, and relearn a whole new system or whatever. But it's as we're doing that, we are cleaning up, making things just more structurally sound. Um, and but it'll be pure three-tier browser based. Right? And we were in the process, and then I got an email saying, guess what? We're really going WIOA. And good 60 to 70% finished. If we could have been finished, we were trying to be finished before they released it. That way all of our changes would have been done in that. And we didn't make it. So whoever decides to take the job for the programmer, I'm not going to tell them that how many hours they're going to be working. That's what went wrong with the first guy. Because James had said, look, yeah, it's 8 or 9 hours a day and everything. I emailed him back down, and not the programming department. And I shouldn't have done that. So, okay. So that's kind of the system in a gist. Do we have more questions, more discussion? Where are we at? Everybody's ready for lunch? I don't know what time it is. No, it's early. It's just not even 11. Right. Right. Oh, so that's another one I haven't heard. Right. Right. I will say in WIA, I came along in 2004 and it was kind of already figured out, and I got told exactly how to make it work, so I wasn't questioning why. When WIOA came out, we started the webinars, and I was talking to different clients, and everyone was thinking differently and stuff. So we started our webinars to try to collaboration and get everybody on kind of on the same page. And most of the time, it's worked. It's been really useful. So I don't know who else is going to attend our webinars, but we can, according to freeconferencecall.com, they can handle thousands of people. So it's very knowledgeable. You debate and get other agencies' opinions. If you care about their opinions, then it's good. You can collaborate and talk. Doesn't mean you have to do it that way, but it's good to get different thoughts and so forth. So yes, you got a question? Server lock up now? It's a service under the services tab. You just add a service. Now, if you haven't entered one in 30 days, you'll get a to-do, and you can right-click there and do it. And I think you did monthly follow-ups, but not for income. That's what you're saying. So you did a monthly follow-up to track and keep up with your customer. Okay. Yeah. So, and so for getting the income is what you called retention when you were talking a moment ago. So I want to get the terminology right the way you perceive it too. So, I think to AVP follow-up is anything done after exit, and so And it may not be so easy to change the wording. It's all in a lot of places. It can all be done. I have the source code. First, we have to get this airplane off the ground. And most of the time when you're on an airplane getting off the ground, it's a little bumpy. Well, I think the last airplane you were on had maybe didn't level off. Well, we're going to level off. And we're going to fly smooth. Right? Yes. So the TABE right now is just on the objective assessment. It's a type of the math test and reading test. You select which one you did. Everybody uses a lot of different tests, so we just have a list of the names of the tests. And we're going to be doing, because the outcomes now are measurable skills gains and credentials. So the credentials not really part of that, but the measurable skills gain is one of your performance measures. So there's an MSG tab that doesn't do anything at the moment, but that's going to be for post-tests and so forth, or subsequent tests. We're working with DRO to try to figure out, and our clients to determine, to me, it's you've got to test every quarter, or at least once per year until the clients exited and out of their follow-up period. But we're trying to get them to change the way they're doing the calculation, because we looked at the way it's calculating, and if at the end of a training, if you test someone with a TABE test or EFL, it's called, that's what, I never heard of that. Educational functioning level is what it's termed in the WIOA law or in the regulations, and so that's TABE. And so EFL is your TABE test and so forth. Then if you test them and then they exit in another quarter, even though they tested with a gain at the end of their training, they're going to eventually be negative, which should not be, that's not right. And so we're trying to get them to change it. And now with 55% of the grantees using our system, that gives us more power to maybe try to, at least I perceive that it might. It may not. But the fact that Marcy came out and spent a week looking and talking and everything was really good. And so, because I think maybe they were thinking about taking another system that they had developed for some other program and making you NFJP use it, and it would have been a revolt, I hope. I think. I hope. So after looking at the system, maybe they have a different thought. So, all right. We're really early. It's 11. Does anybody else have more questions? Yes. You're making everyone stay. Over what? So I'm saying it doesn't do anything at the moment. The logic is still being developed for what it's going to do. So what it's going to do is, you can see there, it's going to list your trainings that they're in. And so that's the ideal, so we can tie a test to a training. But if they've been in 3 trainings, you're not going to give them 3 tests, right? And so it's still got to be developed how it's going to work. And so first we're trying to get them to change their algorithm so that we don't have to do but the one test when you close the training. But if they won't change their calculation, we're going to have to come up with, you're going to have to test them every so often for a gain, at least up to the quarter of exit. And otherwise, you're going to get a negative outcome, even when you do a good job. So, all right. So, the tab may disappear for now. And then once it's figured out how we're going to do it, then we'll implement it. I have to have an algorithm in order to make it do it. And so we've talked about it on 3 or 4 webinars, and we really can't get an idea of how to do it yet. And so I think you just did post-test, right? Now the pro wants the gain to tie to a training. And so you can't just test. You've got to say it's for that training. It doesn't make any sense. And so they changed the Pearl again, right? It only took like a year this time. So WIA was working so smoothly, they decided to change it. Any, something else?
Income used for clarification. We select allow zero income just to track unemployment payments.
That's just, yes, just because it defaults to 0, so it's wanting you to say, yes, I want it to be 0. Because, right. Okay. Well, it's been a lot of fun. So you see, I spent a few hours making sure the server was going to work today. Sorry about yesterday. And so, yeah, we're not going to have those issues because I think my cloud guy decided he knew more than me. I told him how much I appreciated it. So, all right. Well, thank you then. Thank you guys for your patience. I know it's going to be fun.